Hello and welcome to another edition of HOA Today. I'm Mark Foster on the HOA Leadership Network. Well, at many of our chapter meetings, we hear from a lot of our board members that one of the things that they hear about from their residents are electrical issues, especially in some of the HOAs that are older, built in the 1960s and the 1970s. And of course, now we're hearing that some insurance companies are not covering those buildings in master insurance until upgrades to more modern electricity and electrical wiring is completed. So there's a lot to be concerned about out there from an electrical standpoint, and we are going to try to unpack all of that today with two experts who are from J Becher and Associates. We have Lisa Long and Jeff Reid. Lisa and Jeff, thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Great to see both of you. J Becher and Associates, by the way, is a great sponsor of ours at our Maple Grove chapter location. So let's start with a little history of J Becher and Associates. Lisa, your company's been around since the 80s, I believe. What is it that you do? How do you help HOAs in the metro area?
Well, we're a full service electrical contractor, which means we do everything high voltage and low voltage. So for HOAs specifically, we can do anything a homeowner needs, everything from an electrical panel change out to installing ceiling fans, lights, parking lot lights, those types of things. And on the low voltage side, we offer everything especially a building where they have common spaces, telephone entry systems, security systems, fire alarm systems, access control, key card access, cameras, surveillance cameras. We've been doing a lot of pool gates in homeowners associations lately where we automate them, sometimes with the camera, but mostly with the card access.
Well, interesting. So it is getting to be pool weather, so that's something I'm sure you'll be very popular with. So let's get right into it here. One of the major issues, as I mentioned, brought up by members, and you both have heard this at our chapter meetings, is those who live in HOA properties, especially the older ones, have some difficulties with electrical wiring. They're running into aluminum wiring, they're running into upgrade issues, they're running into insurance problems. So what does make this type of wiring so concerning for homeowners?
This is fairly new to the industry, actually. Probably just came to my attention in the last 6 months. But aluminum wiring is lightweight compared to copper, would have a tendency to expand and contract, causing loose connections and overheating.
Well, what can somebody do if they have aluminum wiring, which, as I understand it, was really very common in the 1960s and 70s, Jeff? Is that right?
Yep, that is correct.
So what can be done to update these older HOAs? You know, you've got buildings that are pretty old, they're occupied. How can an HOA board and or a resident really tackle this problem if they have aluminum wiring?
There's several different things you can do with this. There is certain receptacles and switches that are actually rated for aluminum wiring. The most common thing that I've heard about is you put tails on your aluminum wiring so that you have copper connections that go to your devices. And there's other approved wire nuts and connectors and items like that can be used.
So there really is a solution. Would you consider that they should contact a solution company like yours to really look at it, assess the problem, and then move forward with a plan?
Absolutely. Most of your wire connections are, I shouldn't use the word exposed, but underneath the light fixture, behind a receptacle, that's where all the connections are made. So they're fairly accessible and should be able to be changed without having to tear all the alumina out of an entire building.
I'm sure that's a relief to many HOA board leaders who are listening to this today. One of the things that you talked about when you recently spoke in Maple Grove was a reminder to residents to ensure, and board leaders, to ensure that there is some sort of ongoing maintenance and inspection of electrical issues on their properties. So there are certain areas that you talked about that were related to safety checks and those maintenance reminders. So first, smoke detectors. Everybody has smoke detectors. Some of them, however, I'm certain from what we hear, may not be operating at all, or certainly maybe operating subpar. So what are some regular maintenance checks that should be done by residents in terms of smoke detectors?
Well, smoke detectors are something that are very easy for any resident to check. It does not need to be done by an electrician. Most of them have test buttons on them, so you would want to test every smoke detector. And if they're in there connecting smoke detectors, each smoke detector will go off when you test the first one or the second one. They'll all go off. Change batteries yearly. You need them or not, change the batteries in them. And the suggested life on a smoke detector is 10 years, so they should be replaced every 10 years.
Now, GFCIs, those ground fault circuit interrupters, there are, numerous articles written about this. It seems that most people are really not aware of what they do. A lot of people certainly don't even think they need much maintenance. So what kind of tips would you provide to HOA residents who have these GFCIs? What should they do to make sure that they're operating correctly?
Same thing with GFCIs. They can be checked by a homeowner. It doesn't need to be done by an electrician. All GFCIs have a test button on them. You push that test button, the reset button will pop out. It's testing to make sure that that device is working properly. What a GFI does, it detects fault to ground. So in most cases, we find them in water locations or unfinished basements, places like that, exterior. And if they're not there, they should be there for your own safety.
So hot weather season is upon us. We have already had several blasts of very hot weather here in Minnesota. The ACs that are firing up, they're either firing up or they're not. And I'm certain there's probably a lot of busy people out there who are repairing air conditioners. But a lot of this can be, I think, prevented from what I understand with normal maintenance checks. So what should HOA homeowners do to ensure their AC systems are working properly every year to avoid costly repair?
The biggest thing electrically wise is there's a low voltage wire, a very small, what we call an 18-2 wire, that a lot of time is not protected. It goes from your disconnect on the outside to the air conditioner unit. They'll get chewed on by mice, maybe snow falling from the rooftop, that type of thing. And the other actually most important part, which is not technically electrically related, but make sure your fins are all clean. Make sure it's not full of grass debris or cottonwood from the cottonwood trees. And those, I believe, can be serviced by an HVAC contractor, and they can actually brush those fins out.
Right. Keeping them clean, keeping those grates clean is sort of akin to making sure the air conditioner can breathe properly.
Correct. Absolutely. It's very important.
Right. Very important for the ongoing maintenance and operation of an air conditioner. All right. We're talking with Jeff Reid and Lisa Long from J Becher and Associates. We're going to get into talking a little bit about upgrades and remodels here on the electrical side in just a moment, right after this quick break. If you're an HOA board member with a desire to stay on top of HOA issues, now's your chance to join the fastest growing education association in Minnesota, the HOA Leadership Network. Our mission is to support HOA leaders through education, collaboration, and research. There are 4 chapter locations in the metro area. Membership is free, and meetings are monthly. For the schedule near you and to join, visit HOALeadershipNetwork.com. Welcome back to HOA Today. I'm Mark Foster on the HOA Leadership Network. We're talking with Jeff Reid and Lisa Long from J Becher and Associates. Now, Jeff, many HOAs eventually go through upgrades and remodeling. I know here in the HOA where I live in Lakeville, there's a lot of remodeling going on as some of our buildings are over 20 years old. Are there specific electrical upgrades that should be considered for most HOAs, especially those buildings or units that are maybe more than 20 or 25 years old?
Just the normal upgrades. Things like adding ceiling fans and light fixtures are very simple. One of the biggest things is, I believe I've talked about the older electrical panels, specifically Federal Pacific, Sylvania, and Challenger are the 3 most common in this area. And those are, I'll use the word notorious for breakers in them, or even the main breaker not tripping when it's being overloaded, which can cause a extreme fire hazard.
So these upgrades it sounds like it's really two different things. You've got ceiling fans, you've got electrical switches, the normal things that sort of run a lot, wear and tear. But when it comes to those electrical panels, what is it that you're seeing? Are you finding that there's charring that's happening or that there's not enough voltage capability? What is it that you're finding in some of these older HOA properties?
It's when the circuit gets overloaded, and again, it can be a specific circuit, maybe an appliance circuit, or maybe even possibly the main breaker, and they're not tripping and they're causing charring in the panels, which causes arcing, which causes fires.
Right. Something to be clearly avoided. So Lisa, I know J Becher puts in security systems in residential units. So when it comes to security systems in HOAs, and you mentioned you're doing some for pool areas, for example. So either in specific units or in those common areas, what should HOA boards and HOA residents consider when either upgrading their current security system or just installing them for the first time?
Well, I think probably important for HOAs, a lot of insurance companies offer discounts to homeowners if you have a working security system, especially if you have it monitored and you have smoke detectors connected to it. So it shows you have fire protection. And also if you have something of high value, if you live in an HOA where your places are very expensive, some of the insurance companies are requiring it. Like if they're over 800,000, you need to have a monitored security system. Other ones, mostly in the common spaces for the HOAs. I mean, we do a lot of them in personal residences, which is just a matter of personal preference, whether people have those, want them. But in your common spaces, if you have a community room, you want to keep eyes on that. You might have an old Ring camera in there, and now it's been there for 20 years and you've had some activity. Maybe it's time to upgrade it. That's where we see upgrades. Same with like the telephone entry systems in condo type buildings. A lot of those, if they were put in the 70s or 80s, they're discontinued, can't get parts for them anymore. Time to replace with new technology. A lot of people are going with video entry now. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are tied in actually with the key card, the access control for the buildings. Same with cameras in condo buildings and even fire systems. They get old, they wear out 20 years. You need to replace things because they don't make parts for them anymore. Mm-hmm. So we're doing a lot of that in condo buildings right now.
Good advice to make sure that you keep those systems updated. And lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about EV charging stations. I know that J Becher does get into EV charging station installations. Now, some HOA properties, particularly condos, have installed EV charging stations in their parking garages or perhaps other parking lots or common areas. What advice would you give to HOA board leaders in condos or any other areas where they're specifically looking at EV charger installation?
Honestly, call us. There's so many different situations depending on whether you're in a parking garage, whether you're in your own garage or you have a strip of 6 garages together, whether you're in a common parking area. Exterior. We've seen some associations that are putting them in that are actually then charging the homeowners to use them. So they're not specifically for the homeowner, but they're in a common parking area, a shared area. And the biggest thing with it is where's the electrical panel? Where do you want your car charger? And what situations do we have to deal with to get it there?
But we know all of those things, so we're prepared to make a good assessment and then give the best advice.
And free estimates. We're not going to charge you to come out and look at it and give you an estimate. There's no issues with that. We would be more than happy to visit any location and see what we can do for you.
Sure. Electric charging station is definitely not a DIY project yet, right?
Sure.
No, they're all different. Everyone are different.
We have certified installers on staff.
Right. Turn to the experts. Well, very good. Lisa Long and Jeff Reid from J Becher and Associates, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And if you're not a member of our network, go to our website and join for free at www.hoalnet.com. For HOA Today, I'm Mark Foster on the HOA Leadership Network.